One of my favorite things about FL Studio is the amazing workflow process. The interface allows you to do some really cool things, and I honestly wish I had started doing some of these a lot sooner. So with that being said, here's some of the most useful things that I do in just about every project. So I was in the middle of working on this track, and I wanted to break down some of the more interesting things going on here, and it all really starts with the drums. Everything's pretty much where you'd expect it to be, with my kick on insert 1 and my snare on insert 2. But the more interesting thing is actually the routing of all of these drums into this sidechain bus. This makes it super easy to have everything affected by the sidechain just by routing them into this bus. And a lot of the times I'll have even more sidechain buses because I want to sidechain different parts of the song differently. But it's definitely not just for kicks and snares. I also do this for my hats or any other percussion that I want having more punch. And I typically like grouping my drums and my buses by using the docking feature. Doing this I can get everything together but also get it out of the way if I don't need it. But since we're on the topic of buses, over here are some other buses, like this one for reverb. This lets me apply a sidechain from the input signal so the reverb ducks out of the way. Much cleaner. The next thing though is way simpler but just as helpful, and that is to use this stereo knob to check your mix in mono. And that's because if your elements completely disappear, you might have some issues with your stereo imaging. And if you didn't already know, if you click and hold your scroll wheel button, you can do this. So typically once I do all of that, I like to apply a temporary master chain so I can hear what everything sounds like in context. I know some producers like to do the master inside the project itself, but I've been a fan of exporting the unaffected project and putting my mastering effects on it there. I think this way I can really go crazy with it without worrying so much about my CPU. So this next thing can be a major time saver, and that is making and using your own samples and presets. It's definitely worth the extra time to save something cool you've been working on because it might be useful in something later on. I think doing things this way saves you a lot of time making those basic sounds that you always use over and over again. I even use sounds that I made years ago with just slightly different processing from track to track. But just be sure to label everything with at least some basic information so you can easily identify it later. So doing this not only saves you time, but it lets you build up a library of content pretty quickly. And then before you know it, you're releasing a sample pack. So with all of that combined, I'm able to keep everything coherent and then make a track like this. So do you use any of these techniques? And if not, what techniques have been working for you? If you want to learn more about my production process, go check out this video I did on post-processing to help you level up your sound design.